Marhaba and hello once again to our brothers and sisters around the world who share our belief in the Palestinians' right to equal justice and equal rights under Israeli law and on their own landscape. Today is Friday, July 21st, 2023. I'm American historian Dr. Jack Dempsey. With me is Palestinian historian Muhammad Jihad Ismael. We raise the subject every time about what people can do to reach into the 15 years prison called Gaza. I always recommend that people write strident, repeated letters and other contacts to their own representatives in government, demand changes in policies that are either indifferent to or supportive of the Israeli apartheid system. We also ask people to practice BDS by not buying any products produced in the occupied territories of Israel, Palestine. You can often also find things like Palestinian olive oil and other products that would be of great help to their starving, vastly unemployed population. And third, we do a thing at jackdempseywriter.wordpress.com, jackdempseywriter@wordpress.com called Family to Family. Muhammad and I got to know each other about 2 years ago, and we've been fast friends ever since, working on different kinds of projects in these regards. And Muhammad can connect you personally with Palestinian people whom you might like to get to know and to ultimately help in some way. Maybe $5 a month to buy aspirin so that they can relieve pains and aches when their children have a tooth pulled or something like that. Any arrangement you want to make, it's your call. There's nobody else involved whatsoever except Western Union. It's that simple. And at jackdempseywriter.wordpress.com, you can see photo pages of our own work to improve Muhammad's and his family's living conditions, pictures of his beautiful family and their increasingly comfortable residence, which has made them all, well, very happy. He's told me that. And I can't tell you how good it feels for my wife and myself to be part of something like that. So, Muhammad, hello, is our standard introduction. And I understand that Gaza, you've used the word volcanic to describe the heat and the dryness there because there's basically no fresh water even to cool off with. How are Gazan people dealing with that? And you're also having a crisis in electricity. Normally, you get 8 hours a day. Now you have maybe 5. Could you talk about how people are dealing with the heat and why there is an electricity crisis in Gaza right now?
Hello, brother. I am happy to be talking with you and with our friends and viewers all over the world. In fact, you are right. Here in Gaza, we have a volcanic temperature. Maybe Gaza became a piece of the equatorial region. Today, just half an hour ago, I used to check the temperature. It was 42 degrees.
42
It's
degrees
very,
Celsius. It's got to be
yeah.
that's got to be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a very, very high temperature. People here, as you know, are suffering from electricity crisis. But these days we are about to have a worse and worse crisis of electricity because the electricity distribution company has declared some days ago that we are going to minimize the daily amount or the daily distribution of electricity from 8 hours per day to only 5 hours. So people are very, very angry because you know here in Gaza, people are not bearing sitting inside their houses because of the lack of electricity, and especially in this high temperature. That's why the biggest majority of people are escaping outside of their houses, going to the wilderness to have a seat beside the seashore, to sit in some gardens under shadow, just to have the opportunity of catching some breeze, some fresh air. Yeah, this is the situation here in Gaza. So the electricity crisis is going to worse and worse conditions in the coming days.
In our programs, Muhammad, the past few programs, we're talking, for example, last time I think it was about the attack on Jenin and how that has irritated relations between the Israelis and the Palestinians, of course, and that Gaza, which receives maybe 200, 250 trucks full of supplies and fuel, etc., every day, and that means that 12,000 people must struggle to get their share of those supplies from one truck. That's the mathematics of the situation. And now the fuel tanking trucks, the fuel tanker trucks that bring in the Gaza fuel for use in their power plant are also being decreased. So you mentioned that there may be some demonstrations in Gaza to speak back to this treatment. Why would they do this to the Gaza people who are confined this way? Why are they doing
Yeah,
this?
yeah. In fact, people here in Gaza are so angry because, as you just mentioned, the Israeli sanctions over Gaza and siege doesn't allow the enough amounts of tankers to flow every day into Gaza. So we have a big shortage in the fuel, which is necessary for the generation plan. This is number one. So Israel is for sure blamed for this crisis. But beside that, I think also we have some Palestinian corruption in that regard, because the generation plan itself is a very very old one, and it doesn't produce a good amount of electricity. I think this plant should be replaced. At least should be mended or developed by some experts. Let me tell you that this generation plant was bought from South Africa during the early years of PA. So you speak about the days of Arafat, maybe 1996, 1997. Arafat used to buy this planet from South Africa, and unfortunately, it was a second-hand planet, not a new one. And in that time, the South African experts have informed Arafat that this plant will be valid only for maybe 10 years, 15 years maximally. But now we have this planet working for like 30 years. So I think this planet is expired. It should be replaced with a newer one. So both of them are blamed, Israel and the Palestinian authorities, whether in West Bank or in Gaza.
And one of the blockages that makes up the surrounding and the confining of the Gaza population is economic. In other words, a few programs ago, we were doing a detailed look at some of the archaeological sites from all historical periods in the Gaza territory and what a resource that would be for world archaeology and for world tourism, and therefore for Gazan merchants and businesses and etc., to have an economic growth. Now, I think a power plant, a new power plant, would be a great stimulus to new economic ability and activity, but it seems as though you're not going to be able to look to Israel to show any initiative to create a new power plant. So once again, the Palestinians are virtually on their own. What are they supposed to do? They are not allowed to have an economy. So why should it surprise us that now they're being deprived of adequate electricity?
Yeah, you are right. Of course, Israel will refuse any replacement for this plant with a newer one, because this will make some sort of improvement in the economy of Gaza. It will make a revolution in the uh, economical situation of Gaza. More factories will work, more people will have jobs. I am agree with you, but I think if PA make a demand for the international community that we are calling the companies in the Western world, in Japan, in South Africa, etc., to supply or to submit uh, in this issue. They can submit their
Proposal,
uh,
plan.
yeah, exactly, plans. And I think it's easy to buy a new one. As I told you, this plant is very old, very old,
Yes.
and already Arafat used it or bought it as a second hand, not a new one.
Ahmed, I think, oh, okay, good. We're still together. This is another hazard of our program, as you've noticed from time to time. Muhammad and Gaza's internet signal is unnecessarily weak. Doesn't have to be as bad as it often is. And his image for the program entirely can just freeze up. So we appreciate every single person that is attention to what Muhammad has to say from week to week, and we hope that the smooth operations will continue. Muhammad, as we were saying, in the wake of the attack on Jenin, there's been a lot of bad blood anew between Israelis and Palestinians and other violent incidents. It's worth noting that right after that, the congressional Democrats, supposed progressive wing of the American government, accepted and voted for a right-wing resolution declaring that Israel is not an apartheid state. Congresswoman Jayapal, who's I think the only Palestinian descended member of Congress, had said that Israel's government is racist. There was a great uproar against her. She quietly took the words back and said that it's not. But why do we need a congressional declaration saying that Israel is not apartheid and that to say so would be anti-Semitic? This is since the two murders, Shireen Abu Akleh and the older gentleman who was killed by the Israeli military, U.S. Palestinian Israeli citizens who were murdered without investigation. And then President Isaac Herzog gives a speech a couple of days later, and only 6 of the Democratic or progressive members of Congress uh, uh, boycotted that speech. He talked about what a great democracy Israel is. It just must, for you there with the people in Gaza, it must be terribly difficult to hear news like these things, that Congress would vote 412-9 to declare that Israel is not an apartheid state. That must really rankle you,
Yes,
must make you angry, upset.
yes, brother. As you know, the ordinary people here in Gaza, even the intellectuals, I think most of them are pessimistic from the American attitudes towards the Palestinian problem. As you know, maybe recently we started to witness some revision in the thinking of some American politicians, American activists, academics, etc. They started to put in their consideration that Israel is violating the international law. Israel is making some sort of repression against Palestinians. Of course, we appreciate this, and we are so happy of this movement of exchange inside the uh, American mentality. But I think right now the superior voices inside the American administration are still supporting Israel and doesn't give any attention to the Palestinian suffering. So I have a hope, and most of the people around me have the same hope. We hope one day if we can witness some sort of big change inside the decision making rooms of the White House, of
Yes,
Pentagon, and the other uh, American uh, yeah.
leadership. Well, last year, as you know, was a bad year for Israeli apartheid in that five different major global status reports came out. SLM, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and others that did the homework, did the careful study, and found yes, Israel is an apartheid state from the river to the sea. That there are over 60 laws written into the code of laws in Israel that reduce even the rights of Palestinian Israelis. Palestinians who are Israeli citizens, their rights under 60 different laws are curtailed down into something far less than equal with your ordinary Israeli citizen. The only good news might be that while that happened in Washington, a lot of the media coverage that was awake at least was pointing out, though, that the polls of the average American people are much more thoughtful of the Palestinian cause than they used to be. In other words, the American politicians are very much out of touch with how American citizens and people want the situation to change. So I hope somehow through these words that you'll be able to believe that there is an American solidarity with the Palestinians and a growing majority of people who believe that they have justice and equality as their due. Did I mention
Yes.
our photo page, Muhammad, about your family? My blog, it's jackdempseywriter at wordpress.com. jackdempseywriter at wordpress.com. I mention it because there people can see the great difference you can make reaching into the prison of Gaza, 15 years closed now, in the average everyday Palestinian person's life living in Gaza. This is something my wife and I have been able to do. Muhammad and I became friends, and you too can get connected through Muhammad with Palestinians living in Gaza. Wonderful, beautiful people that would make just the most wonderful friends you can imagine, as we have found in each other. And what, $5 a month to send them aspirin in case the child has a toothache or something like that? You can write letters to your own government demanding changes in the policies that sustain Israeli apartheid and practice BDS, not purchasing products created in the occupied territories of Israel, and instead perhaps seeking out online Palestinian olive oil, which is among the best in the world, and it would make a huge difference to their farmers. So, Mohammed, with that little bit, I'd like to turn our attention to what we were going to talk about today, book by Benjamin Netanyahu called A Place Among the Nations, Israel and the World. This was first published in 1993, and it was re-edited and published again a few years later under the title A Durable Peace. So it's been out there for 30 years, and Netanyahu has been prime minister off and on for, I think, over 15 years. You know this book well, and what we were going to ask you most generally is, how do you see his vision in that book for the future Israel coming to reality? Has he succeeded in what he wanted Israel to be? Has he failed? Is it some of the one, some of the other? First of all, how in general do you see this book? How do you understand what he is saying? And how does your landscape and your life and the Palestinians' lives fit into the answer to that question?
Yes, brother. It's very, very important book. Uh, I think Netanyahu has succeeded at least 90%.
Wow.
He implemented at least 90% of his plans, which appeared through this book. Let me tell you something very, very important. Let me take your attention to the year of this book publication. This book was published in 1993.
30 years ago.
Yeah, it's the same year of Oslo Accords. So,
Yes.
so, so in the same year of Oslo Accords, while the Israeli mainstream was concentrating on building peace with Palestinians, with the Arabs, like Jordan, other Arab countries, this man was, on contrary, thinking and theorizing something different. He was not planning for peace. He was planning for more Israeli domination in the future. He was
Settlements,
planning
occupation.
exactly. He was planning for a kill for the Palestinian hope. There would be no Palestinian state on the West Bank territories. I think it's very, very important to think about this issue. In this year, 1993, while the Israeli mainstream people and politicians were thinking, were planning for peace with Palestinians, this man was planning for something different. He was planning for the vice versa, for the confrontation with Palestinians, not planning for peace. So I
And
think it's
this,
very, very important issue.
yes, and just to clarify, I think this was around the time where, with Israeli encouragement, you might say, the original PLO, Palestinian oh my God, Palestinian Liberation Organization, was transformed into the PA, the Palestinian Authority, which under those accords was to become the policeman among Palestinians for the Israeli occupation. Now, 30 years later, we are living on a landscape in which the PA, Palestinian Authority, largely his creation, is in shambles. It has almost no respect anymore among the Palestinian people. So, can we say
Yes.
that that aspect of his hopes, Netanyahu's hopes and dreams, have failed? Should we have expected that because conflict doesn't work?
I think he succeeded. He succeeded, and he
In wrecking
realized
the
his
chances
dreams.
for peace, you mean?
Yeah. I think he realized his dreams, and he conducted his plans. Why? Why? Let me tell you why. In fact, Benjamin Netanyahu in this book was planning for building more settlements in the West Bank,
Yes,
and
even then.
this matter has happened. Moreover, he planned in his book to weaken and to destroy the power of PA, and this really what happened when Hamas made its military coup against PA, and when PA started to be ruled by those thieves and these big oligarchs. So he used to destroy the West Bank by settlements, by destroying PA from inside itself, and I think he used to wage a destructive war against Lebanon, against Hezbollah in 2006, and beside that, I think he used also to punish Gaza and to siege Gaza. And you see these days how much Gaza is weak and destroyed. So I think he succeeded. He succeeded in implementing his plans.
And as you say, destroying or hollowing out the PA, the Palestinian Authority, from within by appointing people who were so corrupt They are taking the money that comes from outside aid agencies, the EU and so forth. They take the money to themselves. And so almost no help and money comes to the average Palestinian community with which they might build hospitals and schools and create some jobs. As we've said, their lives have been thwarted on virtually every level. So this is an awfully, what seems a two-faced strategy from Netanyahu. On the one hand, he's making a big show of saying, see, the Palestinians are going to police themselves with the PA. On the other, making sure that that will work so badly that nothing but conflict will continue.
Yes, we have to know something important. We have to know that all the money which come to the PA, it comes originally from the Israeli banks. So the Israeli banks used to transfer those money to PA. So Netanyahu and the Israeli government, I think they know very well that those money are going to the pockets of some corrupted people and thieves, but despite of that, they insist to send this money to those oligarchs in order to destroy the Palestinian society from inside.
While having the appearance of giving them some independence, having the appearance of helping them, and actually doing the opposite. It's a perfect expression of the past 50 years of Israeli position, because it's largely a matter of documented Israeli-owned government documentation that they never intended to have a peace process. Peace process was an illusion, was a cover while they grabbed up as much land as they possibly could. And they're still doing this today.
Yes, also we have some sort of intelligence cooperation between Israel and PA. They have intelligence cooperation and security cooperation. In some incidents, the PA police or national security used to catch or to arrest some fighters and some fidayeen who are working in the Palestinian resistance. So they use to destroy PA through this cooperation, whether the intelligence or security cooperation, or by funding those big thieves. They succeeded in destroying PA, and in the same time they used to swallow the majority of West Bank territories by building new settlements.
Yes. And it may be said too, if you look at some of the facts around the book, that's again called A Place Among the Nations, Israel in the World, 1993 by Benjamin Netanyahu. He's almost an embodiment of the collusion between the United States and Israel. He was born in 1949 in Tel Aviv to a secular Jewish family, spent much of his boyhood in the United States in the Philadelphia area up until his high school years. In 1967, he returned to take part in the Arab-Israeli War of that year, became a captain in the military, then came back to the United States and became a graduate of MIT in 1976. Then he was entering Israeli politics. He was key in the creation, as we just detailed, of the Palestinian Authority and what it was intended to do. He was always a good friend of Fred and Donald Trump, people who have given Israel everything they've wanted while having a rather ugly racist element to their worldview, you might say. And then in 1993, Netanyahu became chairman of the Likud party, and in 2019 was indicted on various charges of corruption. As I look through the book, Muhammad, I want to ask you, I mean, he says early on when he's explaining the origins and the history and the politics of Israel, he feels that Israel was cheated in its own creation because he says Britain promised the whole of Palestine to the Israelis, to the Jews. Britain promised the whole of Palestine. Do you hear that? Does he hear that? Did Palestine, the whole of Palestine, belong to Britain to give to the Jewish people? This is the kind of a man, this is the way he thinks.
Yes, yes, brother. Let me tell you two things. I want to shed the light on 2 points. First one, let me tell you that Netanyahu's plan for the future Palestinian state is to be established only in Gaza Strip and in some separated islands in the West Bank.
Is what we see now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It looked like the uh, uh, it looks like the Greek islands in the Aegean Sea.
Yeah,
Some fragmented
it really
islands looking,
does.
yeah, yeah, looking like the thrown handful of wheat, you know. He's planning to make the main state in the main state in Gaza Strip, and beside that, some fragmented, very small, very weak geographical areas looking like the islands. So there will be no geographical unity for the Palestinian state in West Bank. It will be fragmented. Yeah, this is number one. Number two, he said in his book, there should be no direct borders between the Palestinian state in West Bank and Jordan. I think we have to take or to make a barrier between the two countries, between Jordan and the Palestinians. Number three, he insisted in his book that we will never withdraw from the Golan Heights. We will not abandon. Yeah, we will not abandon this strategic highland. If we abandon Golan directly, we will be in very severe risk. If the Syrian tanks used to ride this high mountain, we will be in their direct shoot. We will be in their direct fire. So this will be very, very dangerous on the existence of Israel. No abandon for Golan, and he insisted also that we will never make any we will not give Palestinians any opportunity to have an army, to have
right.
weapons, to have a strong forces or police, because also this makes some sort of risk upon us. So it will be a fragmented, weak, and free of arms country.
And the Golan situation, the Golan Heights, he tried to, Netanyahu and Trump tried to cement that reality by renaming Golan Heights, its ancient name, Trump Heights. They actually renamed it Trump Heights. We
yes,
have about 5 minutes, Muhammad. I want to ask
the
you.
Second point. Yeah. Just 1 minute. The second point I wanted to speak about is cheating. If we want to speak about cheating, I think Donald Trump used to cheat the original plan of Netanyahu in this book. He used to cheat it, and he used to offer
he
it
learned
in his
from it. He studied it closely. I mean, he studied it closely. He took cues from it.
Yeah.
Cheating,
But the base of his plan of peace was this book, was Netanyahu's plan. Yes, because if you look to the map of Trump's plan of peace, we speak about the same thing. A very weak Palestinian state, fragmented, like islands, He insisted also not to withdraw from Golan. So the same thing. So Trump used to cheat this
Take cues
plan
from, take ideas from.
exactly. I think he used to take the main ideas.
And
I
that's
think
how
maybe
and that's how Netanyahu got virtually everything he wanted from the Americans under Trump and from Obama too. They all the American leaders, so-called leaders, have done this. Ahmed, as our time goes, we're going to have to go deeper into this book to try to get a picture of Israeli thinking, if you want to call it that. He made a statement in that book. He said, Palestinian people, they only understand force. This is as much to say they only obey us when we are violent toward them. And he said, the Palestinian question, as they call it, is just an Arab ruse. This is just an Arab trick to hide Arab aggression against Israel. How do you respond to those statements? That Palestinians only understand force and that Arabs actually mean to attack and destroy Israel?
I think it's a biblical language. It's a biblical language. If you look to the book of Joshua, the sixth book
Indeed.
in Old Testament, I think you will understand very well the background of Netanyahu's thought.
And we've done programs on that language in those first books of the Bible, and I don't know of another religious or political tradition that could be more racist.
Exactly.
You must exterminate and remove all these people who are on the land before you. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look to the book of Joshua, the sixth book in Old Testament, and if you read this book, I think directly you will understand Netanyahu's background. When he say we want to destroy Palestinians, they doesn't understand anything but the language of violence and power. I think it's a biblical language. And I want to ask Mr. Netanyahu, along the previous wars with Arabs and Israel, who always started those wars? Who always used to wage those wars? Arabs or Israelis?
And the truth of
Whether
the truth of the answer to that question is in the Israelis' own documents. They knew very well in each case of those wars that they were the ones who were going to get it going. Muhammad, we have to close for now, but I'm gonna pick this up next time because it's a complex book that needs a lot of speaking to. Why has Israel's legitimacy been eroding over time to the point where, as we said at the beginning, they need statements coming out of the American Congress that no, they're not apartheid, they're not racist. And why, what do you think next time of this Israeli response that, well, why do you criticize Israel if it's not as democratic as you wish? Look at the tyrannies in other Arab countries. Why do you never criticize those? So we'll get into those answers next time, Muhammad. And I want to thank you very much for today. And I hope people will tune in next time to hear the conclusion of this discussion as we, again, try to anatomize what the Palestinian people are up against. Write letters to your government, boycott, divest, and sanction, and look into family to family here below in the description. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much once again for being with us. Muhammad, thank you too, brother.
Thank you, brother.